Hello everybody, my name's N.London and welcome to another episode of our football betting series here on YouTube Premier League edition. Before we jump into our fixtures for this upcoming weekend, the 13th and 14th of January, we're going to quickly recap the last round of Premier League matches. We kicked things off on the 3rd and we took over 2.5 goals in the Arsenal-Newcastle game. That game did end up finishing 0-0. Despite woodwork being hit a couple times and some chances created, we were ultimately unlucky to lose our £20 stake there. Similar thing can be said about the Leicester-Fulham game. Fulham did end up beating Leicester by 2-0. We couldn't quite get that third goal, so we started off the month and our return to domestic football with a £40 loss. We did manage to turn things around as Manchester United did beat Bournemouth by 3-0. We just needed the Red Devils to win by 2 or more, and they did. So we picked up 15.80 there. And then Chelsea-Manchester City, Man City won 1-0, securing our 13.40 profit. This does mean we're hitting at a 50% win rate, and we are down by £10.80 in the Premiership so far this month. But we're going to hope to turn that around with our 4 selections in today's video. So without further ado, let's jump into it. We kick things off with the Manchester derby. 4th place Manchester United host 2nd place Manchester City, and both teams have been going pretty well form-wise coming into this game. We start with Manchester United, who are coming off the back of 5 wins on the bounce, although you might suggest that these are teams that United should be beating anyway. Teams such as Burnley, Forest, Wolves, Bournemouth and Everton. Nevertheless, 5 wins from 5 after a 40-day hiatus from domestic football is nothing to grumble at. The red side of Manchester score 1.6 goals per game from 2.7 key chances per 90. Defence 1.2 goals against and 8 clean sheets in 17 is quite an impressive outlay. Now this game in particular represents another huge test for Ten Hag and Manchester United, and I'm sure they will have their 6-3 defeat in the derby in mind last time out in October. The Red Devils will be relying on their home form to help them through this particular match. At Old Trafford, Manchester United have a very strong record of 6 wins, 1 draw and just the single defeat, scoring almost 2 goals per game and conceding less than 0.5 goals per 90. Now Manchester City are the second part of this equation, and they're a side that are chasing down Arsenal for the top spot in England. They would have been disappointed to draw against Everton last time out, but they did manage a comfortable 1-0 win against a turbulent Chelsea team in their last match. Manchester City hold 2 of the top 5 performers in the league if you sort them by average rating, and that's Kevin De Bruyne and Erling Haaland. And it's not really hard to see why when we look at the macro stats. 2.6 goals per game from 3.6 key chances created per 90. Defensively, pretty solid, 0.9 goals per 90. And 7 clean sheets in 17 matches is nothing to grumble at either. Now, Manchester City's away form is the second best in the Premier League, with 5 wins, 2 draws and just 1 defeat, winning 4 of their last 5 games on the road. However, only 5 wins from 8 games does mean they failed to pick up all 3 points almost 38% of the time in league games this year, which does give me a slight pause for thought. Head-to-head record, Manchester City have won each of the last 3 encounters by a margin of 12 goals to 4. However, Manchester United are on a slight uptick, and maybe it's a little bit unfair to expect them to duplicate such performances again. Now, I do like Manchester City here, but I will temper my stake with just the £10 half stake. The psychology of this fixture indicates that City have more to lose by dropping points than Manchester United in this particular match. In a hostile fixture and City performing only about an 8 out of 10 compared to their usual 10 out of 10, things could be set up for an upset. From a top-of-the-table clash to a relegation scrap, 18th place Everton hosts 20th place Southampton, and these sides have combined for a pitiful 6 wins in 36 matches as we approach the midpoint of the season. We start off with Everton, who have failed to win in each of their last 4 games, but there may be some scope for optimism. They did only lose in the dying embers of the game against Wolves thanks to a 95th minute Ait-Nouri goal, and then they went on to draw against Manchester City. Additionally, across all of the 4 games since the international break, Everton have managed to find the back of the net. And that's something that we could not say in many of their games leading into Qatar. Across the season, Everton scores 0.8 goals per game from 1.4 key chances per 90. Defence is okay, 1.3 goals against per 90, 4 clean sheets in 18. But since returning to league action, however, Everton have seen an uptick in their goal scoring and creativity, 1 goal per game and 1.5 key chances per 90, but their defence has been poorer, 2.34 goals against per 90. So what have we seen here? A slight uptick in creativity and goal production at the expense of defensive solidity. But at the end of the day, you can't draw all your games 0-0, and I feel that Everton are going to have to come out and start playing some more attacking football if they're to try and avoid the drop this season. The away side Southampton make their trip up to Merseyside. I'd say they'd arrive into this game more fatigued than their hosts, as Southampton do play against Manchester City in the EFL Cup in the midweek, whereas Everton will be well rested as they do not play at all. Southampton are the not-so-proud owners of a 3-game losing streak, and without a clean sheet in each of their last 9 matches. The most recent game against Nottingham Forest would have been earmarked as a point builder, but instead the Saints were beaten 1-0 despite having more of the ball. Creativity is simply lacking in this one. Much like Everton, Southampton have had issues in front of goals, scoring just 0.8 goals per game from 1.6 key chances per 90. Their defence has been more porous, 1.8 goals against per 90, and a staggering 1 clean sheet in 18 league games. When we look at the head-to-head record, Everton have already picked up a win in their first meeting earlier this year, securing a 2-1 win on the South Coast. This was despite Southampton mustering 22 shots at the Everton goal. Everton have had the best of Southampton in recent seasons, winning 3 of their last 4, and Everton seem to be slightly improving in front of goal, whereas Southampton will come into this game with a mixture of regret from the Nottingham fixture and fatigue following the City game. I think it's reasonable to assume that Everton could pull out a result here. Everton to win for me, full stake. Next up, we have 9th place Brentford playing host to 16th place Bournemouth, and the Bees come into this game following a really strong showing against Liverpool last time out, winning 3-1. This result does mean that they have carved out an impressive 6-game unbeaten run in the Premiership, and Brentford average 1.7 goals per game from 2.8 key chances per 90. Their defence could use a little bit of improvement, 1.6 goals against with 5 clean sheets in 18 matches. Moreover, Brentford have the 7th best home form in the division with 4 wins, 4 draws and just a single defeat. They're also unbeaten in each of their last 5 games at the Brentford Community Ground. The visitors come into this game on the back of a 3-0 drubbing against Manchester United, and this does continue Bournemouth's run of 4 straight losses without scoring a single goal. Across the season, the Cherries do score 1 goal per game from 1.1 key chances per 90, their defence 2.2 against, with 4 clean sheets in 18 matches. However, since returning to action, Bournemouth have scored 0 goals per game, 0.67 key chances per 90, and their defence has gotten worse, 2.34 goals against. So they are performing at a lower standard. However, this might be a little bit harsh, as these games do include matches against Manchester United, Chelsea and Newcastle. However, the numbers do indicate something, and that is Bournemouth are simply not competing at a Premier League level. When we look at the head-to-head record, there's not too much to go on, as there has been a break in competitive action, with Bournemouth being in the Championship last year. However, these sides have already faced each other in October's 0-0 draw, and despite the scoreline being not what Brentford would have hoped for, they did win the game in most key metrics. They did outperform Bournemouth on XG, shots on target, and they did tie with key chances created per 90 being 1. I would argue that Brentford are now stronger than they were back then, and Bournemouth are arguably worse. This is a no-brainer for me. Brentford to win, full stake at home. We started this episode with the Manchester derby, and we're going to finish it with the North London derby as 5th place Tottenham Hotspurs host table-topping Arsenal. Spurs have a mixed run of form since their return from the World Cup, but they're coming off a strong showing against Crystal Palace in their 4-0 win. Both Kane and Son found the back of the net in that game for the Lily-Whites. Across the season, Spurs are scoring 2.1 goals per 90 from 2.1 key chances created per 90. Defence is looking okay, 1.4 goals against per 90, with 5 clean sheets in 18 games. Now, Spurs have been okay in front of their home fans, but there is potential cause for concern. The 6th best home record in the division and winning 67% of their games. But form-wise, they've lost 3 of their last 5, and they haven't had a single clean sheet in the last 4 matches played at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. When we look at Arsenal, they picked up from their form pre-World Cup with impressive victories against West Ham and Brighton, before being frustrated in a goalless draw against Newcastle. A game which could have easily gone Arsenal's way, as they did dominate in terms of possession, shots on target and XG, but alas, a draw, and continuing an unbeaten streak is the main thing for Arteta. Arsenal score 2.4 goals per game from 2.8 key chances created per 90. The defence is impressive, 0.8 goals against, 8 clean sheets in 17. Arsenal top the table overall, but they also top the table in away form. 7 wins, 1 draw and 1 defeat for a very strong 22 points out of a possible 27. They're also unbeaten in each of their last 5 away journeys, with 3 away wins in a row. There's no sign of complacency for the Gunners, as they do average a stronger goals against record on the road compared to their league-wide stat of 0.8 overall. This number stands at 0.67. Make no mistake, this is Arsenal's game to lose, Arsenal's title to lose. And when we look at the head-to-head record, Arsenal won 3-1 at the Emirates in September, although this scoreline may be slightly marred by Emerson Royale's red card in the 62nd minute. Now, despite Spurs' win in May of last year, Arsenal have picked up 3 points in 3 of the last 4 games. There are signs here pointing to Arsenal coming out victorious in this one, but I'm going to hold back slightly. I'm going to take a different angle. Over 2.5 goals has come in 5 of the last 6 North London derby matches, and as much as I like Arsenal, I'm slightly concerned about Conte's tactical superiority over Arteta. With Kane and Son finding form just ahead of this match, it does give us something to think about. I'm more confident in over 2.5 goals than I am on Arsenal to win, but you could combine them both for extra value. Over 2.5 goals in the North London derby is going to bring this episode to a close. Time for a quick recap. We have 4 selections this episode, starting things off in Manchester. Manchester City to beat Manchester United, odds of 0.84. We're only going for a half stake to try and pick up £8.40. 3 o'clock kickoff is going to be Everton versus Southampton. We fancy Everton to win at Goodison. Odds off at 6-4, £20 stake to return 23.60. And the evening kickoff, Brentford-Bournemouth, we're going to be taking Brentford to win at odds of 0.68, £20 to return 13.60. Just the one selection on the Sunday, but it is one of the biggest games of the weekend. Spurs-Arsenal, North London derby. I do lean towards Arsenal, but I'm not that brave. I'm going to take over 2.5 goals, odds of 0.78, £20 to return 15.60. So across these 4 games, we're going to be risking £70 to hopefully try and pick up as much as 61.20. Will we do so? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to tune into next episode. But if you have made it to this point in the video, please drop a like down below. My name's been Nerdy Lover, and as always, have yourself a lovely day.